Heh.
What day is it? It's the 2nd? April 2nd?
It is April 2nd.
I don't know what meeting says. Let's say 6.
I think so. I think that sounds about right. We started a few weeks after the semester started.
Yeah.
But yeah, today we're gonna talk about encapsulation.
Woo!
I'm gonna try to talk a little bit louder than I normally do for the recording.
We're gonna be yelling.
We're gonna be so encapsulated. So encapsulated. How many of you guys like have an have an understanding of what encapsulation is? Do you have how do you feel about it? How do you feel about your feeling?
It's
Not great.
Not great. Okay.
Never
Okay.
heard of it.
Never even heard of it ever. Okay. Cool.
That's cool. It's kind of a foggy idea anyway, so.
You kind of explained it, like you talked about it last time.
A little bit, yeah. When I
But
was talking accessibility modifiers, that was something that kind of came up. But
Right,
not
but I didn't
today.
like get a great idea what it was.
Sure, right.
Right. So encapsulation is this idea that in programming where we have parts of the code that we don't want people to get into. Basically, like say your operating system. You don't want somebody to grandma to accidentally bumble through, open up the console window, and suddenly like break your entire operating system.
I'd be so sick if my grandma could open the console window.
Dude, right? I'd be like, grandma. But
Nana,
where
you
do
know-
I find the eBay?
Anna, you know Unix? It's crazy.
Grandma, I didn't even know you made your own
You
language.
made your own scripting language? What?
What?
Grandma. Okay.
You got your own Linux kernel? God.
Yeah, so encapsulation deals with you only want you want to keep specific properties of a thing to itself, and you don't want those properties to be malleable outside of the object itself. So you shouldn't be able to just, for instance, if you have a dog with an age, you shouldn't be able to just change that age willy-nilly. It should just be like a set thing. And no other class should be able to just go in and change that age either. That's something specific to that object, and only that object should be able to handle that piece of information.
Or in that case, also any object that is a member of the same,
Of the same
inherited
hierarchy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Inheritance. I guess that's technically members, but it's kind of weird. So you don't want some random you have a tree element and suddenly your tree element changes your player color. That would not be okay.
Yeah, or for instance, in a kind of an RPG sort of standpoint, say if you've got two things that can attack one another, so the way that you could set that up, they have their stats and everything, they have their HP, their attack, their defense, all that good biz. So what happens is that both of them would have these two methods. One would be deal out damage, and one would be take damage. So for instance, if you had an orc call deal damage to a knight, the orc wouldn't have any business in actually dealing the damage to the knight. What would happen instead is that you would set it up so that when it does a deal damage method to a knight, the knight goes, okay, so now it's my job to take damage, and then you call the take damage from the knight itself. You don't have one class directly go, I'm going to manipulate your hit points. You have one class go, I'm launching an attack at you, and then the other object go, okay, now I'm taking damage because that happened. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. And in programming, I'm kind of interested to see how you would set up something kind of like
I
that.
have something like that.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'll show you later.
Oh, okay. Because that's interesting. Because normally you would just take in, when you have a function with your parameter, you would take in another object. This is normally how I do it, at least. But
That is part of it.
yeah. Anyway.
It gets a little tangly. The finer details of that get a little interesting in terms of how you handle it, but
Right.
just keep that main idea in your head.
Right, because nothing is actually doing something to, I'm not going to say that, scratch that. It's a bad idea. So what goes into that a lot is how we implement encapsulation, because encapsulation is just an idea, it's just a concept, it's not any syntax. But there is syntax to implement that, and that's when you get into access modifiers. So I've got this this class that I've started to kind of talk about properties. Have you guys talked about properties by any?
Kind of, yeah,
Okay.
in our intro class.
A little bit? Okay, cool. So properties are kind of really great for encapsulation because they access information, well, sort of. They can access information that is private or protected, depending. And either read that or manipulate it. And that's when we get into these things called gets and sets. Properties use these a lot, and usually when you see a get or a set, it's inside of a property.
Right.
But not necessarily always. So let me go into what a get is. So I have this private int, and it's a private value. Another class couldn't touch this at all. But I have this public int that's a property accessor, and I'm going to use this to read that value. Like, this would not even be able, like if I did a private value, let's say this equals 0, or I'll make it equal to like 24 or something like that. If I went into the program and went into main, and did, I would have to, my shift key is not working, so it's gonna be, oh, and I can't type either. Oh, I feel like Jeff right now.
I feel for you so much, Jeff.
Oh, I feel
Do you
for
have
you so
to?
much. I think you have to instantiate it.
Yeah, you got to instantiate first. Wow. But okay, so while you do that, though, I can sort of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
keep going.
So the way, okay, I kind of just like understood today that like property is what that thing is called, but you can kind of think of a property as it's they share the same exact variable structures like your standard data types, your ints, floats, strings, what have you. The big thing that's different though is so there you saw that those things up there, that was the get set like function things. So the best way to explain that I think is that whenever you so say you're working in some program and you go into your main console and you have some let's go talk age thing again. So you got a dog class that has a specific age, and that's an int. So you go into your main and you make that dog, and then you want to reference, or like maybe you want to print that that int to the console. So you go maybe you call your dog D or whatever. So it's like d dot age is console right line d dot age. So what's happening there is that you're saying that you want to get that property from that class, and what happens is it goes into this get function in order to go access that information so that it can bring it up so that it can write to the console.
Okay.
In the same sort of sense, there's also this set function where, say, if you wanted to change the dog's age, so d dot age is equal to like 24 or something, which would never happen because dogs don't live that long. So it's the same sort of deal where it goes into a specific function built into C# that goes, okay, go to that property and then run a function so that it changes that value to 24. What we can do with properties is that we can actually change what the get and set do, which is a little bit weird, but it offers for, did you do it? Did you do the thing?
Well, I can't do the thing because it's private.
Oh, right.
I can't. Yeah, if I try to run is, it won't work. We have the squigglies of death.
But
It can't read that private.
Yeah, being able to like mess around with what the get and set does just gives us more, more access to what we want these properties to be able to do, or in some instances, what we don't want them to do as well.
Right. Did you go in? Sorry, I got really focused.
It's
did
okay.
you go into what get and set mean?
Yes.
Or-
Yeah. I just described that.
Okay. Yeah. So it gets read only. You can do computations with get. So you can do like a check to see if, like say you have an input field and you're like putting in your player name. You can set up your get to check if if this is actually a string, or if it's something else, or a bunch of other garbage.
Right, it works like just like any other like function method, you can put whatever you want in there.
And get always returns something. It either returns or throws something. I kind of equate it in my mind to kind of like a librarian. So you ask a librarian for a book. Get is that librarian who looks for that book and then gives it to you. But you can't write anything. But he's not an author, so he can't write the book.
Okay, oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But set is an author basically. If you ask an author for a book, they're kind of gonna look at you a little weird. Like to give you a book, they're gonna be like, "Oh, that's a little rude." Set instead is going to that's where you change your value. So, like in this example right here. So we're gonna get we're gonna say it's gonna return the private value. Allah.
I don't have the camera for you.
It's
we already
totally
got-
okay.
we
We're on
got set
top of
up.
it.
Good.
We're on
Killing it.
top
Tried
of
to
it.
zoom you and it didn't work.
Oh, it's tough. Oh, okay, yeah, that was probably why my phone went off. Sorry.
No, it didn't work because it wouldn't go through.
Oh,
I was trying to send it between Clark and Division and all the way here, and it would not go through anymore.
okay. No, that's fine. We're going over encapsulation. Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit more in depth.
A little bit more in depth. And then we're gonna talk about it with access modifiers and interfaces and properties, you know, linking those all together as a concept. So yeah, so you have your get, which always has either return or throw. And let's say we could do, and we can have a property without set also. It could be just